Morning, guys. Hope you're having a great morning so far, day after the State of the Union. Sorry for the delay this morning. It was a really late night last night, and um, just trying to get organized for today because I've been thinking since going to bed last night sort of how to talk about the State of the Union that I thought would be helpful. First of all, what I would like to tell you is thank you so much for your support of SmartHER News. When I watch big news events like I saw last night, I remember my time working on national news, and the honest truth is I probably would be doing the same thing I did last night, which is taking some notes and deciding how I was going to use them on the show the next day, because I anchored a midday show, and I often wasn't really involved in sort of the evening broadcasts like the ones last night. But it's both very rewarding to watch these big news events and have a news platform I developed. And also it can be tough because I'm watching some people that I worked with maybe, for 10 years or so. I've done interviews with, listening to their perspective, and some of these folks won't even acknowledge SmartHER News, and it's sometimes it's very difficult for me. So I wanted to say thank you for your support for this platform and allowing me to do this, because I love being a journalist and I want to continue to do so. And last night was also really frustrating because I watched two different networks that are diametrically opposed, and every time I do this, I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I think criticism of the media is a little bit overdone. I mean, everyone does it, but it still sort of shocks me how different the coverage can be, how vacant of facts it can be, and any sort of context that actually helps viewers, and it was frustrating. It was really frustrating to watch. So here's how I think here's how I think we should think about the State of the Union, or just some things I want you to consider, because the State of the Union last night was a long speech. It was about an hour, 20 minutes or so. Just for some context, last year, about 46 million Americans watched the State of the Union. This year, about 100 million watched the Super Bowl. So you can kind of think about it. It's a big television event. About half the number of people that watch the Super Bowl watch the State of the Union, but that's still really big numbers. So this is why there's so much political posturing, because there's a lot of people that have eyes on it, and a lot of people that will watch it, or talk about it in the next 24 hours. I think the best way, nonpartisan way, to describe the president's speech is to think about the speech like building a house. The president got up. He had talked about a theme, or his people had talked about that he was going to use a theme about American greatness. This is something that he did. So in the first few minutes of this speech, he starts building the foundation of the home that he's about to structure. This is the argument, or his perspective, for the American people and for Congress. So the foundation that he started off with, that he built, was really about the greatness of America, something that was very difficult to disagree with. So when you see standing ovations, oftentimes it's one group or the other standing up. When the president started his speech, I would say really for the first page or so of the speech, it allowed everyone to applaud. It wasn't partisan. It was very general and sweeping, and it elicited a lot of applause from both sides, because what he was saying was hard to disagree with. And if you sat down, like Democrats sat down during other points of the speech, it wouldn't seem very patriotic. So that's how the president started it, this sort of wide sweeping foundation. And then on top of the foundation, he starts building his base, which is all about the economy. And he used different facts about the economy. The truth is, I don't think the numbers matter so much. And also a small rephrasing of the numbers can change the meaning. So you see a lot of fact checking on that today, of which I haven't been able to do. But I think the big takeaway is he talks a lot about the economy, accomplishments in the economy. Again, something that both Democrats and Republicans can sort of get behind, because everyone wants a good economy for America. So there is this sort of foundation. And then for the rest of the speech, in general, whatever topic he touched, he used sort of these broad sweeping strokes. So imagine someone, again, that's built the base of the house, that now is building the framework. Each post is a different issue that he wants to talk about. So you do have the issue about immigration and border security. You do have the issue about foreign policy, Afghanistan, Syria, Russia. You do have healthcare as an issue, opioid addictions. You do have a post about trade deals and what's ahead for America on that. So you have these different posts that are his, his stances on issues, but I would describe the way he talked about them last night, again, in these sort of like watching a painter paint with a broad brush. You didn't hear anything particularly new, or shocking. We did learn that there's going to be a second summit regarding North Korea in February, which I think is a news nugget, expected, but we knew. And then, but it was very general. It was, I want more funding for cancer research for children and funding for HIV research. I want a change in abortion laws, but just sort of touching on it. We talked about border security. Again, these are broad strokes, things that you've heard before, that it's dangerous, that there's human trafficking. Wall works is something that he talked about, but that's something that you've heard before. So that's how I want you to think about this speech last night. If there's any part of this speech that I think is worthwhile to watch, it's probably the last 3 minutes of the speech, because that's when he again returns to his theme about American greatness. And there was an energy in the room that you could observe through the television where he presented to Congress a choice. We have a choice to rise to the occasion and entertain different possibilities. And again, that wasn't particularly partisan, and I think that might be worthwhile for you to watch. If you have a few minutes today, if you want to read one part of it, estimate, the transcript I'm posting on the website, think about what would be the last page, and that would be what I would say is worth watching. Because I think it's something different, probably something that we haven't heard so much from the president. Now, the criticism from the Democrats of this speech is twofold. One, the president is talking about American greatness and coming together in unity, but the president can be very divisive. I think that's a fact. The president likes being combative, as you can see on social media. So that's one of the criticisms by the Democrats. The Democrats also said, the president wasn't specific. The president didn't have any great new ideas. And I think that criticism was sort of thrown out there last night and sort of let sit. And I want to offer you some context that I think is really important. The president's speech this time around was extremely different than the president's speech last year. Last year, the president gave an extremely specific foreign policy and domestic policy speech. He came up with new ideas that he presented for the very first time, even surprising members of his own party. It was last year that he put 4 pillars of immigration reform out there that specifically mapped out border wall security as well as a pathway to citizenship for people that are in the country illegally. And he did so at the peril of his own political support, because some Republicans didn't even know he was going to do that. So you should just know last year's speech was extremely specific. This year's speech, talking about unity, coming off of a government shutdown, the president didn't go that route. Now, why he didn't, I don't know. What that means, I don't know. What sort of value that adds or doesn't add, I'm not sure. I think what's going to be really interesting is you kind of think about it like, when someone holds a bunch of sand and goes, and sort of blows it. Let's see, based on this speech, what grains, kernels sort of land. Where do people go with it now, 48, 72 hours after? Because immediately everyone's just going to be saying what they want to say. Republicans are saying it's one of the greatest speeches in history. Democrats are saying it was horrible. I think you should be wary of both severity of criticism. So that's my take on the State of the Union. I also isolated a few things on the website for you, different points that I thought he made. And I also included the Democrat response, which talked about unity in a strange way that was a little bit different, and blamed the president for a lack of unity in the Republican Party in general. So you can take a look on a little bit more in depth on our website if you go to smarternews.com. And I also have the transcripts. That's all I included, is the transcripts from both the president's speech and the Democrat response for you to see. I will try to get a video too. Let me see if I can just get a good video. I'm sure C-SPAN has something. I just would like you to be able to watch it without any sort of commentary. So does anyone have any questions about the State of the Union that perhaps I can answer? I'll talk a little bit about another news story today, but if I see any, I'll go ahead and take some of them. Today in history is interesting to juxtapose what's happening in the United States of America, because today in history at age 25, Queen Elizabeth was coronated in Britain. And the reason why I think that's interesting is that there were many American presidents that decided not to deliver a State of the Union because they felt that it made them look like royalty, and they did not want to look like royalty. So Thomas Jefferson said, there's no way I'm going to Congress to deliver State of the Union in person because I'm going to look like a king. And that's exactly what America is not. So I think that's interesting. Queen Elizabeth is very popular. She's one of the longest reigning monarchs in the world, the longest reigning monarch in Britain. She married her sweetheart when she was 13 years old. She met her now, I guess, prince. He's still the prince. Prince Philip, right? Is that poor Prince Philip? You know, everyone talks about the Queen. You know what I mean? But they've been married a really long time too. I love learning about her little handbag that she continues to carry. She's been reigning for like 67 years, and she's carried the same handbag or a version of the same handbag for 50 years. I mean, ladies, that's consistency. I have like a gazillion handbags. There's no way I could do that. But when you find something that you like, I guess you just go for it. So anyhow, I think it's interesting to juxtapose. Here's a world leader. She doesn't really have anything specifically to do with politics, and look how popular she is. When politics get involved, I don't know. It can get a little messy. Some of you are asking a little bit about a couple things, which about the State of the Union, which is the Democrat response, and how long that's been going on. That's a great question. I don't know how long that's been going on, whether or not that's a tradition that's emerged, how recently it's emerged, because remember, it was only in 1965 that President Johnson started the televised address. And so I would imagine it would be after that, because of the platform that it was given to the president. The opposing party probably wanted to make sure that they got equal billing or a chance to speak. But let me double check that for you. Some of you are also asking why who was wearing white in the crowd. And that was a very visible picture for anyone that was watching on television. So the women wearing white were women from the House of Representatives. They were congresswomen, and they were wearing white because white is the color of suffragettes, if I'm saying that correctly. Those suffragettes are women in the 1900s that were fighting for women's rights to vote. So they did that in a way of showing unity for women's issues in general, is my understanding of it. And so Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, as well as members of the House of Representatives, women sat together. You'll notice that the women that didn't wear white were either Republican or were senators. So sometimes you would see a Democrat and she'd be wearing white. Sorry about that. So anyways, that was what was going on with that. Okay, guys. Hope you have a great day. I hope that was helpful. And we'll kind of dig into a couple of these issues as we see which ones emerge and kind of what comes next. I'm curious what you think about the State of the Union. Just on that quick note, I wanted to mention to you, I asked you guys what you thought the State of the Union was. And hold on, I'm locked out of my own computer. Don't you hate that? Okay, here we go. I asked you guys what you thought the State of the Union was, and I thought it was really interesting because a lot of you were, different responses. So in the same sort of breath, you guys said the State of the Union was pretty good, better than it's been in a long time, divisive or divided or polarized or fractured. You thought it was hopeful, strong but confused, messy, not without hope, strong, divided, and defeated. So that gives you an idea of just how different people think about the State of the Union today. All right, guys, we'll continue doing our work on SmartHER.com, so check that out throughout the day. And thank you again for your support. Appreciate it. Have a good one.